Hello again and welcome to the next chapter in the uo'aXy'an language video series. In this segment, we'll be going over the unique attributes of the uo'aXy'an sound system, how to pronounce the consonants and vowels with correct length and pitch on the syllables, and we'll do a good kickstart to the basics of reading and writing in the native script. In gameplay, seeing uo'aXy'an will be more common than hearing long dialogues in it. But language is fundamentally a spoken tool for communication, so getting the pronunciation right is a basic requirement that everyone who wants to be proficient in the language needs to tackle right up front. We have a lot to cover in this chapter, so let's just jump in and get started. I mentioned in the last chapter that the uo'aXy'an phonology, its sound system, was inspired by several different Asian languages. But there really isn't too much in it that's actually difficult to pronounce. We already know the importance of pitch. We had the example from the last lesson of 9, loa, versus eat or drink, loa. This is not radically different than the contrast we hear in our words desert and dessert. We say that these are stressed differently in English. In uo'aXy'an, these would be considered at a different pitch, that they go through different pitch changes. We'll cover this in detail coming up, but for now, just keep in mind that it is important. Vowel length is also important. It is a different contrast that changes meaning in uo'aXy'an. For example, e, short and low pitch, means choice or selection, versus e, long and at a low pitch, meaning multiplying or duplication or even breeding perhaps. This kind of distinction is not common in English in the sense that we are overtly aware of it on a day-to-day basis. But think about pronouncing me as an I versus the ME sound that we get in the word meme, as in an internet meme. Me tends to be short, but in meme, the sound tends to be long. uo'aXy'an also has several diphthongs. A diphthong is two or more vowels that are thought of as one run-on vowel. In English, we think of the I in fight as being a long I. We call it a long I. But in reality, in most of our dialects, it is an ah sound run together with an e sound. When you separate fight into two different syllables, you get fa-eat. Running them together produces the single syllable fight. uo'aXy'an has this same I sound in both short and long variations, as in chai, meaning technology, pronounced at a short length and a mid-level pitch, and I, a female name, with a long length at a mid-level pitch. The other most common diphthongs are ao and oa. They both have short and long versions as well. You heard oa in both loa and loa. Do you recall what they mean? Next, let's talk about rounding. This is what happens when a u sound comes before another vowel or diphthong. We have it in English whenever a word begins with QU, kick versus quick, keen versus queen. It inserts a w sound, a rounding of the lips, between the first K and the vowel. In uo'aXy'an, the u does this whenever it comes before another vowel or diphthong. It's so pervasive and such a hard and fast rule that it's never necessary to write the letter W. Wa, wo, we, are just spelled with U, as are wa, wo, we. There is no wu sound, just a long u. Do you recall the number 5 from the last lesson? Qua. And this is the case any time you see it. NUA is noa, woman or female. TUON is tuon, want or desire. CHUI is chui, liquid or water. It's not chewy, chui. HUI is hui, system, organization, layout. SU long A is swa, an amount of time. The only time this is not the case is when the U belongs to a different syllable other than the one that follows it. So just NUA is noa, meaning woman or female, but nua with a falling pitch inserted between two syllables nu and a means freshly decaying meat. The spelling difference is very obvious in the native Xi'an script, which we'll be looking at coming up. Somewhat similar to rounding with u, we also have palatization with y. In English, we don't write it with y, but we have palatization in the words new and few and q in most of our dialects. In Xi'an, you will learn that sya is xia, meaning need, and tya is tia, meaning type or kind or version. Thy long o ng is thiong, meaning sad. One of the most iconic sounds in Xi'an is the consonant cluster th coupled with l. You will hear it over and over again in the word thlea, meaning proper or correct. We have it in English in the word athletic in the middle. But in Xi'an, it also comes up right up front as in the male name Floan, pronounced at a low pitch. Before we talk in more detail about pitch, it's important to learn what SRX is. It is the abbreviation for Standard Romanized Xi'an, and it is the way we write Xi'an, including pitch marking in our alphabet, the Roman alphabet. Here are all the letters and combinations of letters that represent single sounds. I'm going to pronounce each sound, starting with the vowels and diphthongs. Ah, o, u, e, i, ow, oa, I, wa, wo, we, wow, wa, why, ya, yo, you, yeah, ye, yao, yoa, yai. Note that each comes in a long and short version. The long A is like EY in the English they. Now let's hear the consonants and consonant clusters using the vowel A to illustrate them more clearly. Pa, ka, ta, sa, ha, ma, na, nga, tha, la, ra, thla, sha, sha, cha, kla, kra, ya. And we can't forget that U plus A is pronounced as if it were wa. But it's never written with a W in SRX, even if it has a W sound. You should also note that CHY sounds different than a regular CH. Cha, 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 cha. Do you hear the difference? Without the Y, the tongue curls back. The same thing happens with the X. With the Y, it's up against the back of your teeth. Also, when either X or CH come before E or E, the tongue moves forward to the teeth. You might struggle a bit with this. Just practice when words with these distinctions come up. Likely, the most difficult sound is NG before a vowel or diphthong. Please try all of these. Repeat after me. Nga, ngo, ngu, nge, ngi. Were you able to do it? If not, realize that this is the same sound that English has in the word singing, both in the middle of the word and at the end. Try saying singing without the C at the beginning. Nging, nging, nging. An important part of SRX is how it marks pitch using just 3 pronunciation marks: the period, the apostrophe, and the double close quotation mark. Let me pronounce all of these for you. Loa, 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 loa. When there is no mark, the pitch is mid-range and flat, loa. When there is a period in the middle of the syllable, the pitch is low, loa. When there is an apostrophe in the middle of the word, the pitch drops at the break where the apostrophe is, loa. When there is an apostrophe after a period, the pitch rises, loa. When there is a quotation mark at the end, pitch is as high as it ever gets. Loa. This pitch is, of course, relative to each person's voice. These 3 punctuation marks are used with the Roman alphabet because they rather closely mimic the pitch markers that perform the same functions in the native script, which we will get to very soon. But first, let's look a bit more at the sound rules of proper Xi'an. The syllable unit is very important in Xi'an. Let's learn 3 technical terms from linguistics to talk about this. Those words are onset, nucleus, and coda. Onsets start a syllable. In Xi'an, any of the consonants can be an onset, including the tricky ng of ngo, which means sweet, as in the sense of a gesture made by a child or an animal, or how cute they are. The nucleus is the vowel or diphthong that comes in the middle. The onset can be missing or null. Codas come at the end of a syllable and can also be null or empty. Xi'an is somewhat picky about codas. Unlike onsets, it only allows M, N, NG, TH, L, R, and very rarely K in some slang words. The syllables loam, loan, loang, loath, loal, loar are all okay, but loap, loat, loas, loach, loach never occur naturally in the proper language. Also, the language is quite loose with the L versus R sound. Technically, there is only a way to write L in coda at the end of a syllable in the native script. But you will hear it pronounced like a flapped or tapped or trill R at times. Ar, or, ur, ir. It's never rhoticized as in English, not R, or, ir. Be careful of that unless you want a strong u'e accent. You will also hear Sheswelen pronounced as Shesweren, even if it's spelled correctly with the Xi'an L in the native script. The L version is considered more proper, the R version is a little more informal. Let's look and listen to some of the most unusual syllables that Xi'an might allow. Njauth, Shol, flying, kreith, time, yem. Certainly not all of these are words, but they could be words. The Xi'an could pronounce them. Now that you know more about SRX, let's use it to learn the standard Xi'an letters in the native script. Here's a table. You can find a downloadable version on the forum, and you may want to have it printed so that you can pause this occasionally while you reference it. It looks much more daunting than SRX, but most of it is completely logical. Once you learn to recognize the individual parts, it won't seem so overwhelming. Let's start by learning how to read the syllable xian, which is the common abbreviation for Xi'an in the proper language. All syllables begin conceptually at the upper left and proceed in a left to right and then top to bottom trajectory. The onset for shan is the XY letter, pronounced for this purpose as xia, so it goes at the left. Now we need the nucleus, a. Let's first put it at the right to get to xia, but we also need the N sound in coda at the end of the syllable. So to make it fit, the A has to be shrunken down and moved to the upper right. This gives us room to fit in a small n, named in this case an, at the lower right. But we're not done yet. Shan has a falling pitch, so a pitch marker goes beside the small a, and it's a proper noun, a name for the Xi'an people. So they mark it as such by putting 2 lines side by side over the block. Now that you understand the basics of building a syllable block called an unke, let's look at all of the keshin, the individual letters. I'll pronounce them as they are highlighted in the neutral mid-level tone. A, o, u, e, i, ow, oa, I, I, ea, wa, wo, vu. This is only used in special dialect spellings for a much later lesson. We, we, wow, wo, why, where, ya, yo, you, ye, yi, yao, your, yai, yeah. Pa, ka, ak, ta, sa, ha, ma, na, an, nga, ang, tha, ath, la, al, ra, al, and sometimes ar. Thla, sha, sha, cha, kla, kra. And finally, a special character, yaenuiwa, which only occurs with U diphthongs. You'll likely quickly notice that the visual difference between a short and long vowel or diphthong is simply an extra dot inserted somewhere in the letter. Short O has only 2 dots, long O has 3. The Xi'an refer to their complete alphabet as uo'aXy'an, which means Xi'an system of writing symbols. When they talk about individual letters, they simply say ke plus the sound if it's a vowel or diphthong, or the sound plus a in the case of the consonants. So ke a would mean the letter A, the letter a. Ke la would refer to this symbol. However, when they spell out of syllable block, they simply give the sounds in the order they are written. If a consonant comes in coda, it's pronounced with the a vowel first. So N in coda, as we just heard, is called an. The syllable block shan would be spelled sha-a-an, rath-u-sen, meaning xy plus a plus n in falling pitch as a name. When vowels stand alone, as in the word e, meaning choice, and e, meaning multiply, an inverted flipped L-shaped mark puts them into syllable block format. It's merely a visual element and it's not pronounced. This is also the case with most diphthongs, such as ao, meaning corporation. The bulk of the keshin on this chart are produced due to the rounded vowels with u and the palatized vowels with y. If you can learn to recognize how they look in their most compacted forms, everything is suddenly much less mysterious. U is defined most fundamentally by the shape you see here. So when it combines with O, we get wo, with no middle dot necessary in the U. The Y used in palatization is abbreviated by having its 2 lower strokes move up the sides of the upper one to form little wings, as seen here in ya and ye and yo. The letters an, ang, ath, al, and rarely ak look somewhat different from their full-size versions that can appear either on the left or the right of a block. Learning this is just a process of memorization and practice. Studying by using the syllables mam, nan, ngang, thath, lal, and kak can be helpful. Remember that sometimes speakers will pronounce ral and lal as rar and lar, replacing L with an R sound. When a vowel or diphthong appears in the upper right-hand corner of a block, it is technically called ping, meaning small. Hence a-ping, o-ping, u-ping, e-ping, etc. The most difficult letters to recognize are the highly compressed, rounded, and palatalized ping versions of diphthongs like y and yoa. If you look closely, you can find all of the strokes of all of the parts in the forms. Sometimes 2 dots end up on top of each other so that one cancels out the other. And in this case, you just see one of them. But all of the forms are unique when compared to each other. You will simply have to memorize them. There's no way around it. And speaking of memorization, one of the best ways to do that is through writing the letters by hand. Finally, let's look at how pitch is marked on syllable blocks. We'll use our syllable loa as an example. Mid-level flat syllables have no marking at all. Loa. Low-pitched syllables have a single underdot within or below the block. Loa. U. The higher versus lower dot is just an aesthetic typesetting difference. Falling pitch blocks have a tick mark at the upper right. Loa. Rising pitch blocks have a tick mark at the lower left and a single dot at the upper right. Loa. High-pitched syllables are marked with double dots at the upper right. Loa. And finally, across syllables and words, there is a scenario that the pitch rises only to fall again on the next syllable. This happens in uo'aXy'an, for example. Do you recall that uo'aXy'an is the farewell greeting? In this case, two ticks on the center syllable, one at the lower left and another at the upper right on the same block, show the rise to fall pattern. It's important to understand that pitch in Xi'an is not pure tone. You'll do better to think of it as the direction in which your voice is moving up or down or not. The flow is generally across multiple sounds or syllables, as in uo'aXy'an. Falling pitch is especially rare on short syllables, but it does occur even in xian, as we've already seen, and on kya, which means fight or battle. Keep in mind also that the Xi'an script on Xi'an worlds is written almost exclusively vertically from the upper right to the lower left. When practicing long words and sentences, keep this in mind and try to write it that way yourself. A single space separates words. You can find some examples of numerals and punctuation on the downloadable document. That's it for this lesson. In the next chapter, we'll be exploring lots of basic words and phrases, and if you want to learn to read well, practice all of this over and over before moving on. Yan le'ekol, study well.